I just ask about the West Bank? Just go back to the killing of American Turkish citizen Ayşenur Egi from last week, because the secretary commented on it while he was traveling. I just want to clarify a couple of things. So the IDF said effectively that it was an accident, but then we had reporting, namely Washington Post, saying the shots were taken after the peak of the protest. So there are discrepancies suggesting that perhaps it may not be an accident. What is the U.S. assessment on how she was killed?
So we are going to await the full criminal investigation that the government of Israel has launched before we make any determinations. Obviously, we are reading very closely the eyewitness accounts, and there have been numerous eyewitness accounts of what happened. You heard the secretary speak to those eyewitness accounts when he made his comments in London last week. Whether the eyewitness accounts are true, whether the accounts that the Israeli government made public are true, ultimately, this is a death that never should have happened. It's a killing that never should have happened. And it's why the secretary made clear that the Israeli security forces' rules of engagement need to be changed. So you don't continue to see the killing of unarmed civilians who are doing nothing more than showing up at a peaceful protest.
Right. A couple of things there. When do you anticipate this criminal investigation to conclude?
I don't have a timetable. I would refer to the government of Israel to speak to. It's ultimately their investigation.
Right.
But what we have said to them is that we want the investigation to be prompt, we want it to be thorough, and we want it to be transparent.
And is U.S. considering to launch its own investigation, given she's a U.S. citizen?
We're going to await the outcome of this investigation before we make any further determinations.
Okay. And has there been any communication with your Israeli counterparts or IDF since Secretary called for a change in their rules of engagement? Have they assured you that they will take it seriously and they will make changes?
There have been ongoing communications about this. The same concerns that the Secretary raised publicly, we have raised privately to them. Those conversations are ongoing, and I don't want to speak to them in any detail at this point.
And just why isn't the U.S. committing to an independent investigation, given that she was a U.S. citizen?
We want to see a transparent investigation, and if accountability is appropriate, we want to see accountability. I think before calling on any further steps, it's appropriate to let the first investigation play out. Now, if the first investigation plays out and we are briefed on the results and we are briefed on the process and we are briefed on the underlying facts and we're not satisfied, we will of course look at whether any other measures are appropriate, but we think it's appropriate in this instance to wait to let that first investigation play out before we go to any other steps.
Okay, one final thing. When you say you guys want this criminal investigation to be conducted promptly, this is the case of a U.S. citizen for sure, but we have had similar back and forth about a number of other incidents where there was civilian harm, and then they disappear from the headlines. And we don't know what kind of action, if any, or accountability measures have been taken. So I'm wondering, has the United States set a timetable for when it expects Israel to conclude that? Like, what do you mean by prompt? Do you need an answer from them in a couple of weeks, or is it going to be 2 months?
We mean as soon as possible. I cannot give you a timetable, and I think you'll know from covering investigative agencies. Investigative agencies always, and I used to work at one and be the spokesperson for one, always have a hard time giving you a timetable for any investigation because you don't know what you're going to find when you start investigating things and how long it's going to take. But we want it to happen as soon as possible, and we want it to be thorough, and we want the results to be transparent.
Okay, final thing. Can the U.S. commit to seeking accountability for its own citizen on this case?
So it depends what you mean by accountability, right? If there is, if the investigation shows that someone acted inappropriately, in violation of the law, in violation of the rules of engagement, in violation of IDF code of conduct, yes, of course we want accountability. But we also want a change that will prevent this kind of thing happening again. So you have long-term accountability to ensure that American citizens and others, Palestinians, citizens of other countries, aren't killed just for showing up at a peaceful protest. All right, go ahead.